The Atlanta Hawks have a team made up of middle schoolers. The Charlotte Hornets have Scary Terry, but there's absolutely nothing scary about this team. The Miami Heat, the only team in this division, despite losing a lot of people and getting Jimmy Butler, that will make the playoffs. The Washington Wizards' John Wall, point guard, has bones made of paper. And Bradley Beal has been entertaining trade rumors as well. The Orlando Magic team stays mostly intact. However, if they're anything called the Orlando Magic, they just won't be good. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your NBA preview and predictions, Eastern Conference, Southern Division. I want to make it clear that this division is completely AIDS. I think a lot of us know that the Southeast Division, which is the last division in the Eastern Conference, is completely garbage. 90% of these teams are teams that are rebuilding, beginning a rebuild, or going to be tanking again this year. However, the Miami Heat are also in this division, and they are a team that is going to make the playoffs, and they're going to get that 6th seed, if you were to ask me, in this upcoming season. But this is the last division in the Eastern Conference before it gets exciting in the Western Conference. But this division is really not too fun because a lot of it is considered around. There's a lot of new names in this division and teams that are just completely going to be rebuilding. The first team that we're going to go over here is the Atlanta Hawks. Now, this team, I want to make it clear, I don't think this team is awful. They're not bad. They are good. But the only problem with the Atlanta Hawks is that they're not a playoff team this year. I know that some people might disagree with that, but I'm going to tell you why. Here's why. Trae Young is good. He's a point guard, but someone that young you're not going to have lead a team. Number 2, John Collins is also good, and he's a good scorer for them, and Alex Len is the center as well. Problem is that half of this starting 5 is made up of players that have never picked up a basketball, at least not in the NBA yet. This team is way too young to be getting any type of playoff berth, and I know that some people may say, well, why are you putting the New York Knicks ahead of the Atlanta Hawks? I'm doing that because everyone that's on the Knicks already has some experience, except for RJ Barrett, who has enough hype around him himself to be good. And you've seen some promise on that team despite 17 wins. Mitchell Robinson is good, and like I said, all those players are they have a good coach, and they're just, I think they're better. I think they're just, I don't think either team is good, but here's what I do think. I think that the Atlanta Hawks have the potential to be very good soon, but not yet. Mainly the offseason consisted of them drafting. They drafted DeAndre Hunter and Cam Reddish. Cam Reddish can be a great player. I think he was picked at the number 10 spot in this draft, and that's something that people are going to be looking forward to as well. Jabari Parker, Evan Turner, Alan Crabb, and they traded for Chandler Parsons in this. So this team did pick up a lot of players in the They picked up a lot of players in the offseason. Those players that I just listed were pickups in the offseason for the Atlanta Hawks. But like I said, they have a lot of players coming into a system they're not familiar with. They have a lot of young talent, very, very young talent, a team that's even younger than the Knicks. Yes, Trae Young is very good, and I think he was definitely runner-up, or if not favorite for Rookie of the Year last year. I think Luka Doncic was definitely a little bit better and definitely edged him out there. But generally speaking, the Hawks starting 5 consists of Trae Young at point, Kevin Huerter, someone they drafted at shooting guard, DeAndre Hunter, a drafted small forward, John Collins at power, and Alex Len at center. So the Atlanta Hawks are not going to do anything this year. They're not going to make the playoffs. I don't see them really doing anything. I think that they're a team that could have some potential breakout games this year, but I don't see the Atlanta Hawks. I definitely don't see them in the playoffs. And I think similar to so many teams in this division, I don't see them going into the playoffs whatsoever. However, the next team I'm going to review is going to make the playoffs, and that is the Miami Heat. This team, even after the big 3 disbanded, they still remained relevant. They were not as good, but they remained relevant for some years. Like I said, not nearly as good as they were, but this team is good. And here's the thing. They acquired Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's a clutch player, and he's a lethal three-point scorer and good player as well. However, the team did lose Hassan Whiteside, who was a crucial big man for them, and Josh Richardson as well. So some might disagree with me, but if you're going to go crazy, say the Miami Heat get the 6th seed, and I think that they have enough players coming back here and enough players that are good enough to get them in the Eastern Conference playoffs, just because Jimmy Butler is that big of a name by himself. You have Goran Dragic coming back at point guard, Dion Waiters at shooting guard. Jimmy Butler is going to play, from what I'm told, small forward. Kelly Olynyk as well, who's a good big man power forward, and Bam Adebayo at the center position. So I do see the Miami Heat making it to the playoffs in the 6th seed, and I figure that they're going to probably beat out Detroit, and behind them will be Detroit and New York Knicks in the seeding for the Eastern Conference, figuring that Miami 6, Detroit 7, New York 8, and then as well. And I'm going to go over at the conclusion of this, or maybe not this video, but go over after all my seeding predictions where I think each team is going to lay. I think the 3, 4, and 5 seed in the East is a little bit harder to predict because there's so many teams in that mix here, like Brooklyn, Boston, and Toronto, I think, are the 3 teams that are going to mix their way into those seeds. But yeah, that is basically what I think about the Heat. I think they're going to be good this year. I don't think they're going to be great. They're not going to win 50 games. I don't see that. But I think they're going to be hovering somewhere towards the bottom half of the Eastern Conference in terms of seeding. View here is another team that they don't have enough to make it to the playoffs, and they certainly won't. The Charlotte Hornets. This team is not going to be very good, but I think that this gives Terry Rozier, who's coming along after being traded from Boston in that swap also for Kemba Walker, a chance to really break out. And I saw that you saw how hungry he was on Boston and how much he wanted to break out as a guard player, but you know that Kyrie Irving being there, and that was not going to happen. And Isaiah Thomas there as well when he was great. Terry Rozier could be big for this team, but however, this team did lose Frank Kaminsky and the heart of their team, Kemba Walker. Malik Monk and Miles Bridges could thrive. They are younger players. Malik Monk is, I believe, someone who they drafted, and Miles Bridges this is going to be his 2nd year in the NBA, so they could thrive. But this is another team banking on a young core and players that aren't familiar. They're a little bit further along in the process than the Atlanta Hawks are in terms of rebuilding and building a young core, but they're definitely not going to make the playoffs. I don't see that happening. However, you do have their starting 5 as Terry Rozier, Dwayne Bacon, or Malik Monk, depending on what happens at the shooting guard spot. You have Nicholas Batum also is a good player. The small forward spot, you have Bridges as power forward, and Cody Zeller. And now Cody Zeller is the marked center for the Hornets, but I think Bismack Biyombo, who's right behind him, could also compete for that spot. But that is your starting 5 for that team, and this is probably going to be a shorter video because I really can't stand this division, and there's really no excitement going into this division. But I think that the most activity is probably going to come from the next team that we're going to review, and it's the Washington Wizards. Now, this team's not going to make the playoffs either. So, but here's the thing with the Wizards. John Wall, when he played, we all knew this, that he was a top 5 point guard in the league when he played. But the problem is that he's been ravaged by so many injuries and just a shit of luck. He didn't really have too much of a team to back around him besides Bradley Beal. But John Wall is likely to miss the whole season following rehab. And Bradley Beal has been entertained in a lot of trade offers and a lot of different various news articles lately. So I think that I'm not quite sure that Bradley Beal is going to hang out this season with the Washington Wizards, especially if he's definitely the most exciting of the talent, definitely on the Washington Wizards without John Wall. He might want to pack his bags and head west maybe. I don't know, wherever he wants to go, or another team in the East, but I definitely could see Bradley Beal, and even someone said something about the Denver Nuggets. I think that's a team that you could see him going to as well. But I just think that Bradley Beal really needs to leave this team, because this team has had names throughout the years, but they've never done anything. The Washington Wizards are the definition of mediocre in the NBA. John Wall, like I said, is going to miss the season. Brad Beal entertained on trade rumors. The team re-signed Thomas Bryant, who was their center. They also got Ish Smith, who's going to be coming in as their point guard, banking because John Wall is not going to play. And it's so sad to say this. A couple years ago, he was the king of Boston. Isaiah Thomas is on a veteran minimums deal, or vets minimum deal. They're going to give him a chance to maybe get that point guard position and revive his career, because Isaiah Thomas keeps bouncing through one-year contracts and teams throughout the season. They drafted Rui Hachimura. I don't know how the hell to say his name, but he's going to be banking on the power forward spot. This team, outside of Bradley Beal, and you don't know what you're going to get at point guard, is also... They don't have much chemistry, and there's not as much talent on this team as there should be. They lost a lot. They lost Trevor Ariza, Jabari Parker, Morris, Bobby Portis, and this team has lost a lot in the offseason. And the Charlotte Wizards are really going to struggle this year, if you ask me. But I don't see anybody really breaking out. I mean, I don't really know what Isaiah Thomas has left, and I sure as hell don't know if Bradley Beal is going to stay on the team. We also don't know that. And then you have power forward and center or younger players, and then really it's just C.J. Miles there. So there's no super breakout talent here on the Washington Wizards, and I don't see them making the playoffs either. To review now, here's the thing about this. This is the last team to review here, the Orlando Magic, or not review but preview. Now this is a team that can make the playoffs, but I don't think they will. If they do, they'll be battling with probably the Knicks, and maybe I'm giving the Knicks way too much credit here, but let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. If the Knicks don't get the A seed, it's going to be going to the Magic, but I'm going to say what I want to say, I guess because it's maybe bias and a little bit of favoritism, I'm going to say that the Magic do not make the playoffs, but they have enough talent to do so. The problem is that everybody that comes through the Magic knows how to dunk and do flashy plays, and outside of a couple people, there isn't much else going on there except mediocre names. The thing is that most of the offseason core does come back. Mo Bamba coming back as well. Aaron Gordon, who is the player that everybody wants to see on the Magic. However, they did extend Nikolai Vucevic to a 4-year, $100 million deal, and that was well earned. He is definitely one of the more elite players in the NBA. I don't think he's in that category quite yet, but he's definitely somewhere in that mix. They signed Al-Farouq Aminu, who's another good scorer in free agency. They re-signed Michael Carter-Williams, and they picked Chuma Okeke in 16th pick in the draft, but he's going to be coming off an ACL injury, so they don't know what they're going to get from him. There are some questions at point guard for the Orlando Magic, and like I said, this team's a little bit of a question mark, but they're definitely, outside of the Heat, another team that could potentially make the playoffs in this division. I don't quite see that happening, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Magic really break out and get a 7th or 8th seed. And like I said, the Pistons, the Knicks, and the Magic are really your bottom dwellers in the Eastern Conference, and you don't really know who's going to happen and what's going to go where. But their starting five is DJ Augustine, Evan Fournier, John Isaac, who is also young, Aaron Gordon, and Vucevic. So you have some decent names on this Orlando Magic starting five, but they won't make the playoffs. And that is really it for this. This is more of a quicker video. I'm not too fascinated by this division. I can't wait to get to the Western Conference because I got some cool intros that are really going to be nailed to the head in the Western Conference. But thank you everybody for watching, and I am looking forward to working my way to the Western Conference.